Luxury. Today's song is from one of the most dynamic, most legendary singers of all time. This disco crossover hit launched her solo career and reached #1 on the Hot Soul Singles Chart in 1978. And it's been deemed one of the greatest dance songs of all time. We know you've heard it in plenty of TV shows, movies, and parties.
That's right, Diallo. Her song became an anthem for female empowerment, diversity, resilience, and self-love. For 5 decades, she has been a trailblazer for women in music, breaking down barriers with her dynamic voice and powerful stage presence.
It's one song, and that song is I'm Every Woman by Chaka Khan. I'm actor, writer, director, and sometimes DJ Diallo Riddle.
And I'm producer, DJ, songwriter, and musicologist Luxury, a.k.a. the guy who whispers interpolation on the internet.
And if you want to watch one song, please go to our YouTube channel and watch this full episode. All right, let's start.
Okay, well, we've got one hell of an episode for you for our longtime listeners. You know we mention Chaka any chance we get.
It's true.
She is really the gold standard for me when it comes to the human voice and what can be done with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and today we're joined by a trailblazing journalist who might be just the perfect guest to talk about Chaka Khan with. She's the author of the award-winning book Shine Bright, A Very Personal History of Black Women in Pop, and the creator and host of the NAACP Image Award-nominated podcast Black Girl Songbook, which focuses on the stories of Black women in music.
Also, she's the former culture editor at ESPN, the editor-in-chief of Vibe, the editor of Billboard. And if that wasn't enough, the New Yorker has called her one of the nation's most astute chroniclers of pop and hip-hop culture. Danielle Smith, welcome to
the show.
Hey, everybody.
Do we get all the accolades? There's so many more. We couldn't fit everything.
It's too much. We've got to stop. We've got to stop.
I didn't know you were Vibe's first African-American editor. Is that true?
I am, in fact.
Who was editing before you?
Well, there was Jonathan Van Meter.
Okay.
Was the first and founding editor-in-chief of Vibe. And then there was the great Alan Light.
Alan Light,
yes,
sure.
Alan was my boss.
Okay, so these are good. These are good folks.
They are. And Alan is my heart.
DEI goes both ways, I guess is all I'm saying. I was just curious because I didn't know that. I was one of your readers at the time, and I just knew it was Quince's magazine, you know?
Yeah, it was. But yeah, definitely. I am the first woman and the first Black person
That's awesome.
to be editor-in-chief of Vibe.
Okay, so first of all, I want to talk about your book a little bit. You talk a lot about credit in your book.
Yeah.
Typically, Black musicians being credited, and even more specifically, female Black musicians going uncredited or insufficiently credited. There's one quote of yours I found. I think you were interviewed in Pitchfork. Black pop is shot through with the spirit of reparations from the blues, jazz, and the early R&B era. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. Didn't mean to mangle your words because your prose is beautiful.
Thank you, though.
Absolutely. Where so many artists were just robbed of money, of credit, of cultural status, and of their dreams coming true. We talk a lot about that on this show, so I felt like this would be a perfect entree for talking about Chaka. Do you feel like she has gotten her due? Is there something about Chaka in particular on this topic that you want to talk about?
Well, first, just let me say how happy I am to be here. It's just good to talk about music at any time, especially with people who love and respect it as much as you guys do. So I just really, it's much appreciated. I'm so happy to be here. If you're asking me if Chaka Khan has received the credit that she is due in the music world, then the answer is absolutely not. I would also say that most Black women who make music, especially soul music and pop music, classical music, jazz music, it doesn't matter. They are not receiving the credit that they're due, which is not to say that they're not receiving credit. It's that they're not receiving the credit that they are due for the impact that they have had and the influence that they have had.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can think of anything. You can go back to, is it Van Morrison? Na, 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 na.
Do you remember when we used to sing sha-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la?
I mean, that's Whitney Houston's mom singing that chorus.
Oh, wow.
That's her and her sweet inspirations. And that is what we think about when we think about that song from Van.
I had no idea.
I didn't know that.
That's Whitney Houston's mom.
That's
and
Cissy
her
Houston?
Cissy Houston and the Sweet Inspirations are singing background on that song.
Did not know that. So we're already, I see our producer's mouth is agape right now. Like, I think there's some facts in your head that you'd be amazed, or like even with self-proclaimed music nerds, we do not know these facts. I don't think I
It's
thought I knew a
true.
lot about Cissy Houston, but I did not know that.
And
Did
then
not know
everybody
that.
goes, "Oh, Counting Crows," and that amazing song that sounds just like Van Morrison. And it's like, well, do they sound like Van Morrison, or do
Right.
they sound like Sissy
Sissy
Houston?
Houston.
The origins
And
get
Sweet
buried and then they get
Inspirations.
erased.
Yes.
From these people.
In Shine Bright, you tell these under-the-radar stories of black women who shaped America's music into what we know it as today. You're talking about Shaka's contemporaries like Aretha Franklin, Gladys Knight, and Patti LaBelle. You're talking about her family. You weave your personal connection to these women and their songs into the book. How did you choose which artists to talk about and which stories to tell?
The people I wanted to talk about, the women I wanted to talk about, were women who I loved and my sister loved, who my mom and her sister loved, and who my grandmother and her sister loved. Those women, like,
Generations.
that just
Yeah.
I heard all the time in whatever household I was in as a kid or a teenager. It just makes up my own personal life soundtrack. And I wanted to talk about those women because, believe me, at the beginning of writing Shine Bright, I was trying to write about every single black woman that's had a top 10 pop hit since like 1940. And I was trying to include every single person. And my editor, Chris Jackson at One World, was like, okay, so what we're not going to do is, it was like, this is not a set of encyclopedias. So I had to narrow it down, and it was heartbreaking. I really wish in my book I was talking about Shaka Khan more, but I grew up in a Whitney Houston household and a Nally Cole household, and every household had their favorites. I love Shaka. She's a personal favorite. I wish I had written more about her in Shine Bright.
Yeah, I mean, we were wondering if that was one of the reasons you wanted to talk about her on our show, because you weren't able to talk
We
about her
looked
so
in
much
the
in the book.
index and we were like, it's not in here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's not a lot, and I consider myself to be like, I can't believe I'm going to say it out loud, but I'm just going to go on ahead and
Say it.
I consider myself to be quite the Whitney Houston scholar. There's no doubt about that. I would say the same about Janet Jackson, and then I would also squeeze in there Mariah Carey. I'm not a Shaka Khan scholar. I am a Shaka Khan lover.
Yes. Well, here's the
Do you
good
ever need
news.
to
After
sep-
this episode, you will
Yeah.
be a Shaka Khan scholar.
Okay, because listen, I'm going to be sitting back listening to you guys.
Do you ever
Because you
feel
were
the
talking
need-
about album cuts, and I was like, ooh, let me find out.
Do you find yourself sometimes needing to separate the two, like especially as a journalist, especially with your history of interviewing these people? Does it sometimes you have to save a place so that what the music connection you have that might be so emotional that you don't change it potentially by knowing too much or even knowing the person?
My love for, say, Whitney Houston, it can't ever really probably be changed, barring unforeseen news of some kind. I could know every single thing about her from embryonic days to the very last day. But the thing is, I have to choose the people, though, that I am going to be scholarly about.
Yes.
Because if I spread myself too thin, then I'm going to end up knowing a very little about everybody, which is cool. I love a good generalist, I do. But for me, I like being able to say, if you want to ask somebody about Whitney Houston, Janet Jackson, or Mariah Carey, you should probably ask Danielle.
Before we dive into I'm Every Woman, I wanted to ask you, Danielle, how did you discover Shaka? I mean, you've kind of hinted, but what was the first exposure, and what does I'm Every Woman mean to you?
My name is Danielle Smith, and I am a California girl.
There you go.
All right, born and raised in the great country of California, and take some pride in it.
Yeah.
As a kid, I had a real fascination with songs that had any California reference. So, California Dreamin', Hotel California, I Left My Heart in San Francisco,
Oh, great one. Do you know the way to San
Dionne
Jose?
Warwick, Do You Know the Way to San Jose? And then we get to Shaka Khan, Hollywood.
On his ways, going to Hollywood, he's busting into Hollywood. Show him the ways, moving to Hollywood, he's hopping into Hollywood.
Oh, wow. It's sort of not forgotten, but I think you have to live in a town that does that Quiet Storm old school mix of music, because that is not the current go-to for Rufus featuring Shaka.
Shout out to KACE, Southern California's finest. I had a real fascination with Shaka Khan's Hollywood as it related to what is my favorite song of all time, which is Gladys Knight and the Pips, Midnight Train to Georgia.
Wow.
He's leaving, on that midnight train to Georgia.
There's never any question. It doesn't change. It shall be forever, because Hollywood seemed like he was going to Hollywood, and then Gladys had he's going back south. So in my
It was one dude. It was
right,
one story.
in my no, but even right now in my mind, it's the same dude. Because the songs were being played around the same time, and I just had in my mind that Shaka was seeing him off, and Gladys was seeing him home.
Seeing him home.
wow.
Yeah.
Do you think that while he was here, he was listening to Hollywood Swinging?
What you got to say?
Probably.
I
Kool
think
and the
that I
Gang.
think that might be the middle piece.
No, but and let me tell you something, and why not? Shout out to Kool and the Gang. Absolutely. Going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year, as a matter of fact. But yes, so that was me, Hollywood. And there was something about that song that was like, if you were an ambitious girl, which I've been since even having any consciousness of like who I am and what I'm about, and you're sort of singing about ambition, but like through the idea of this guy, when really I think it was her. It was her.
Yeah.
Like Hollywood representing ambition, like escape,
Yes.
living your dreams.
Yes, but it wasn't as comfortable for women and black women to sing about it like that. Just the same way with Midnight Train to Georgia, it wasn't, because I don't believe that Gladys got on the train with him. I think that Gladys saw him off. She never says in the record.
That's true.
Okay.
I hadn't thought
I
about
hadn't
that.
thought about that
She
either.
never says it.
I wanted to talk a little bit with you about, you talk about in your book, the history of pop music, this great quote, throughout the history of pop music, it is the rich, high, strong female voice which is the prize.
Yes.
I love that line. It really spoke to me because you're talking about across gender. You mentioned from Frankie Valli and like into the Bee Gees, right?
Yes.
Even high voices, Michael Jackson, Michael Bolton, George Michael.
Yes.
These are potentially people capable of singing lower, but they choose to go high.
Yes.
It does pop off the radio. But the fact that it is a female register is so interesting. And to connect that to Shaka, and then comes the question, sorry for the long build-up. I found this really interesting interview between Joni Mitchell, who we'll also be talking about, and Shaka in interview last year. Joni says, when I first heard Shaka, I thought it was Stevie Wonder. And Shaka goes, most people thought I was a man.
Yeah.
I had never really thought about that. So there's potentially a bit of a gender reversal in Shaka. She's got this rich, strong, powerful voice.
So people talk about range, and the highest is always prize. Everyone wants the whistle register.
Right.
Oh my God,
Right,
the
Mariah.
whistle register.
But I like the way you feel inside.
And it's like, yeah, but can you listen? How long can you listen to the whistle?
Minnie Riperton throws it once every
Yes.
album or two. Or,
You have to every once in a while.
yeah, dole it out.
But Shaka's starting down here. It's like Gladys. We don't always have to be way up here. I'm sure when Shaka feels like reaching, she can get pretty high.
She sure can.
But when she's singing big, long, and loud, if this is high and this is low, and she's singing right here, she's a monster.
we're going to be listening to all of those voices too when we get to the stems. And we are so excited to dig into this song. We're going to hear the low lows, the whoa,
Yes.
whoa, right? She's doing that. And she's also belting. She's doing it all.
We talk on the show about like the how different singers can have different strengths and qualities, and I was like, I love how like wispy and gentle Minnie Riperton sounds.
Loving you is easy 'cause you're beautiful.
And I love how like, big and like strong, and like the term I always come back to is brassy. There's like a certain note that Shaka hits on several of her songs. I noticed that it's there on a couple of my favorites, and it always strikes me as brassy. And then to find out that the two of them were playing a gig together in the early days, and that was one of the shows where she catches Ike Turner's attention, and he tries to fly her out to, Los Angeles, and he says, "Hey, I want you to be one of the Ikettes." It's just funny that Minnie Riperton
Yeah.
is at that point in her career. I think the show is in Chicago. Minnie Riperton with one group and it's Shaka with another group.
Wow.
But they're like there at the very beginning, and I'm like, two different voices and styles couldn't, exist. But like black people are digesting both and enjoying both.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but like sidebar, so Ike was just out here collecting Ikettes?
Apparently, he was inviting people to become Ikettes, and she said she turned him down.
No.
I think yes.
No.
Yes, a few
I
weeks
wonder
after.
why.
No. Probably worked out quite well for her. According to our research, there was a talent agent. He booked Ask Rufus, which was the name of the group at the
Yeah.
time. And they also booked Rotary Connection,
Okay.
which had Minnie Riperton. And so
Okay.
they're both singing on this card. And there was a guy there who named Bob Monaco. He has the booking company. He's like, Ike, you got to check her out. Ike flies her out to Inglewood, ironically, at a place called Bollock Sound.
Okay.
And he offered her on the spot to be a Ikeette, and she declined. Apparently, she was happy just sticking with Rufus. So before we get into how I'm Every Woman was made, we still got to talk about Chaka Khan's origin story. She started singing as a child on the South Side of Chicago, South Side, and was influenced by Gladys Knight and Billie Holiday. She formed a girl group with her sister called the Crystalettes. And she joined the Black Panther Party as a teenager. This woman has lived many, many lives.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about Yvette Stevens, her birth name. She was actually named in a Yoruba ceremony. Her full name is Shaka Adune Adufe Yamoja Hodohare Karifa Khan, which is amazing and powerful. And but anyway, her given name Yvette came after a Stan Getz song. Her dad loved saxophone music and loved Stan Getz, so her voice comes from horns. Alto saxes mainly is something I've heard her say in an interview.
That almost makes sense with the way she sings.
When she thinks about singing, she's thinking like a jazz saxophone player. And we're going to talk about jazz on this episode in a big way. But she worked with Miles Davis. They worked on the album Tutu, among other things. And she said that Miles paid her the highest compliment when he said she sounded like his horn, his muted horn. And she just took that to heart and like is living with that like satisfactorily for the rest of her days.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's quite a compliment. So, by the way, she's got a sister. She's Yvette. Her sister is Yvonne, who goes by Taka Boom. Just a little fun fact. She was briefly in a group called The Undisputed Truth, who have a really amazing
Great.
song I got to play for you called You Plus Me Equals Love from 1976. And it must be said that her brother is also a musician, and he co-wrote this song. Doing the Butt by EU is a co-write with Mark Stevens
Yeah.
and Marcus Miller.
There are still parties you can play in my hometown where the bud still goes off. Still goes off.
Okay, first of all, there's a million of those parties.
They don't never not
But there was a point where it was like,
Where the butt
you
goes
know,
off.
like prime time, you can slip it into the mix. Nowadays, it's like you kind of have to be a certain age, but like, you know, it still goes at the right cookout, at the right picnic, it can still pop.
I was about to say, I think I'm that certain age though.
Now, I'm going to seem like the resident idiot here, but for most of my life, I thought that Rufus was a guy in the group. I thought Rufus was the...
Did you think it was
Ike,
Rufus
if you
Thomas
will.
or something?
I thought it was Rufus. I thought
Okay.
it's called Rufus. I figured like, okay, so there's a band leader named Rufus, but Shaka's the star.
Right.
Turns out that is not the case. Rufus is a group that starts off, they're originally called Ask Rufus. They got their title from a classified ad for a mechanic. Luxury, can you walk us through sort of Shaka joining the group and the hits that they then produced?
Listen, I think we're going to do a real brief run through because there's
Yeah,
a
this
huge,
could be a whole nother episode.
This could be its own
The
episode.
number of band members in Rufus is insane.
It would take an hour just to list everyone who was in the band.
Yeah.
But this is a Chicago band, 1973 to 83. They were huge. They had 3 consecutive #1 Billboard R&B chart toppers. But their biggest song possibly, and certainly my favorite by a country mile, this might even be my favorite Shaka song, is this one.
She's an instrument, is the thing.
My favorite. That might be my favorite. That song won a
Yes.
Grammy. That was the best R&B vocal performance by a duo, group or chorus, 1975. Should be noted, in case you didn't already know, that's a Stevie Wonder song. But in an interview I heard recently, Shaka says that she co-wrote the lyrics, but she was young and didn't understand publishing. So in her mind, she goes, I gave Stevie all the credit because I was so honored to work with him. Which is so sweet.
Let's
but
be sure to give Shaka Khan her credit as a
Let's-
songwriter
yeah.
She's a
because
co-writer
she's
of
writing
Tell Me Something
songs.
Good.
Yes, she's not always writing songs, but
Shaka
Oh,
should
okay.
get a portion of the IP for this song that has been made millions of dollars.
She's in a club of so many women who were just honored to work with such and
Right.
such
And their
such
contributions
such.
should have been
Should have been
intellectual property which would have been mailbox money for life.
For life.
They're like, oh, you know what?
I always think about on the old 45s where it had the songwriting credits in the parentheses underneath the song title. And it's like, as a kid, I was always like, well, why isn't that the same name as the person
Who's singing?
that's singing it,
Right.
right? And so then you live and learn. And when I just think about, like, just off the top of my head, Dionne Warwick,
I was thinking her exactly as you said that.
and we're doing it for the same reason.
Yeah.
It's like, so Dionne never wrote. I just find that she's not even all the time down as vocal arranger. Like,
because the definition of writing is lyrics and melody, but it doesn't include the other choices that are made creatively. Phrasing, syncopation, all the subtle things that, even 1% would be mailbox money for life.
Absolutely.
We talked about this on the Doja Cat episode, because when you hear Paint the Town Red and you hear Dionne Warwick's voice, you're hearing the sample throughout the song, and it's a person who hasn't made a dime off of that version of the song or the original. She wasn't paid anything because she wasn't considered a writer, and I think that's criminal.
Yeah.
no, it's
Not
criminal.
cool.
It makes me
Not
it's
cool. Back.
right? It's that combination of like
Back.
anger and heartbreak for me
Yeah.
with this kind of thing, because I know how hard those women worked in those studios.
Shaka starts her solo career while she's still in Rufus. What motivated her to make her own music? We can kind of take a guess. I mean, like, we know that, like, at some point the label was like, it's not Ask Rufus, it's Rufus. Okay, it's not Rufus, it's Rufus featuring Shaka Khan.
Right.
And
The
at
name
one
of
point
the
it's
band
like
starts to
Rufus
evolve.
and Shaka Khan.
Let's make sure to get Shaka in front when they take the pictures and everyone else is blurred out. It's this classic thing where it's intended to be a band. And Shaka talks all the
Yes.
time about how she loves bands
Yep.
and being part of a team.
Yeah.
And she didn't want to be singled out. And it caused tension, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And many other things led to more tension over the years.
She's making the cover of Jet, like she's anybody who read Jet, she's like Beauty of the Week every week. Like it's like she's
Magnetic.
taking the world by
It's
storm.
magnetic.
Yes,
Yeah. She's got the
absolutely. And
charisma.
listen, we are going to give flowers to Bobby Watson and all the proud members of Rufus.
Not all
Tony
20, though. We
Maiden.
don't have time to
We
list
don't
them
have
all.
time for all of them. But I sort of feel like, fellas, this is the woman who is sort of setting the plate. But we're
Yes,
going to get into all
But
that.
also, it was the era of the black band. Everybody from Lakeside to Earth, Wind, and Fire, on and on and on and on. And, the Commodores,
Yes.
everybody. And folks were realizing that people are sort of, their charisma is causing them to be
Yes.
chosen,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes by themselves. Remember, it was, what was it? Theodore Pendergrass Jr.
You going to talk about Teddy?
Yeah, we're going to go Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes.
Yes.
It's like people were
That
emerging.
one concert, that one performance on Soul Train is very tense.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like Harold Melvin was like, "What?"
I'm Harold Melvin.
Exactly. So I just feel like there was a moment where we were merging, like it was a transition from the era of the black band, even
Yeah.
the Jackson 5.
Yes.
The era of the black band to the era of the black star, the solo pop star, the
Yeah.
Supremes, even getting out of bands and just going into groups. Like people
Lionel
were
Richards was like, I'm paying
emerging.
36 people back here.
Right.
Listen, and that did have something to do with it.
Yeah, there's economic reasons for it. There's
Yeah.
economic
Yes.
impact.
Yeah, when
Yes.
you're splitting that money that many ways. So you have this person who originally joins the group as the singer who is now becoming absolutely a star into her own right.
Yeah.
And now she's going solo. After the break, we'll dive into how I'm Every Woman Was Made, and we'll be right back. Hi there, welcome back to One Song. My man Luxury.
My man Diallo.
I'm Every Woman is on Shaka's first solo album, named Shaka. She's still in Rufus when this album gets made.
Right.
Tell us, how did I'm Every Woman, the song, get
Let's
made?
talk about I'm Every Woman.
Yeah.
So she's working with Arif Mardin, who is a Turkish producer, worked at Atlantic Records for 30 years, along with his homie Ahmet Erdogan. That's how he got the job. But he's a classic producer, arranger in the old school tradition where he's not himself a songwriter or musician, but he brings everyone together. He brings the best of the best, and that means the best musicians, the best songs. So we were talking earlier about the jazz tradition. So
Yes.
every song in this record, they're all written by other people. So he's worked with Aretha, Donny Hathaway at this point, Bee Gees, Queen, and Average White Band, who will come into play in this song, interestingly enough, in a few places. He referred to Shaka as his instrument. So in a way, he kind of thinks of her voice in the same way that he's thinking of the drummer's drums and the bass player's bass. He's thinking sonically, how does this all fit together?
And he also brings in two of my favorite people, Nick Ashford and Valerie Simpson.
Let's talk about
Ashford
and Simpson.
You know, I feel like this was everybody's favorite couple in music. You know what I mean? Even before Solid as a Rock, these were some people who produced one of my favorite garage classics, and we're going to talk a little bit about garage classics. A song called Bougie Bougie that was
Wearing my Larry
yes,
Levon
you're wearing your
record.
Larry Levon. People watching on YouTube, you're getting a little bit extra because he's got Larry Levon,
Grace Jones.
the famous Paradise Garage DJ, on his shirt. Ashford and Simpson making great songs,
Everybody wants to be
just great. This is just
bougie,
bougie. Yeah, exactly. By the way, I like the instrumental, but they made the music and the
They
and the
did.
lyrics. Absolutely.
And also, I feel it's interesting that Ashford and Simpson were chosen for Shaka's debut because they were chosen for Diana Ross's debut with "Reach Out and Touch Somebody's Hand." So I feel like
They
that
were
was
the
a
go-tos.
look. Yeah, that was a look.
Is
They
this
were
a
like,
New York scene? I feel like
Oh,
this is
yeah.
very New Yorky.
It's
tough.
New
this
Yorky.
scene, isn't
It's
it?
very New Yorky.
Yeah.
And it's very Ashford and Simpson still had the dust of Motown. Okay, from all those early like Tammy Terrell,
They
Marvin
did
Gaye
Ain't No
songs.
Mountain High Enough.
I
Ain't
mean,
Nothing But the Real Thing.
just
They did
this-
the Ain't songs,
just
the
a
Motown
few-
Ain't songs.
You know what I mean? Just some
Did they
light
do Ain't Nobody?
Just some light work. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Just some light
Just
work. No
some
big deal.
light
No
work.
big deal.
Well, okay, so he's gathered these great people together.
So this song is written by Valerie Simpson, is playing piano one day. And she's playing the piano part that you're about to hear isolated. Now, of course, it's not recorded by her, but picture her playing that piano line. And Nick hears it and starts singing along. He comes up with the I'm Every Woman line, which is really interesting because he is not a woman, interestingly. But when she heard him say it, they both realized something clicked. Like the sound, the lyric, everything about it was perfect the first instant it came into being. So he comes up with that first line that became the iconic title. And Valerie, in an interview, said, I immediately knew it was a great title. It was one of those things that just came together, but we were having trouble with the verse. So Valerie says, I told him to put his hand on his hip and dig into his feminine side,
I love this.
and
I
it
love
will
this.
be there. And that's where he came, and then it worked.
Oh, it worked.
So that's how the song came together. Valerie on piano and Nick on lyrics, and they wrote I'm Every Woman. And
Let's get to Sips. Where should we start? How about we start with the drums?
let's do it. All right, well, on drums, we have Steve Ferroni from Average White Band. Just basic disco groove. 113 BPM. Nothing super fancy going on, but you don't need much. This is a backbone.
don't
This is a
overthink it.
groove.
Don't
I'm dancing on the
Everyone's
inside.
happy. No
Yes.
one's angry. Little
Yes.
ghost notes come in here, right? Little thingies in there. So he's doing that all through the beginning of the song. In the second verse, he throws in a little bit of a 16th note. You'll hear that. That right there. Boom, boom. Real subtle things on top of a strict 4-on-the-floor groove. Nothing too fancy.
But it's a little bit of a build.
It's a little bit
It's
of
a
a
tiny build.
And then we add the open hi-hat, and then you will have heard all the things the drums do. So let's listen to that in
Let's
the
hear
second
that.
chorus. Classic disco. By the way, did you notice that he doesn't start the open hat right away?
No, I think it's all part of the build, and I think it's very intentional. I feel like this is a song that builds
Yeah.
in very subtle ways over the course of from the beginning to the middle to the end.
Oh, absolutely. It's got a huge build. And just one thing I wanted to point out with that is that these are all session guys. I'll name them as we go. But what happens in these, especially kind of classic 70s New York recording studio, let's get Arif Mardin, let's get the best and the brightest in and
Yes.
give them a chart and have them hear the song. They may have only heard the song for the first time on a demo tape, minutes before they got to their stations to play.
Yes.
So what you hear as we listen along is a lot of like kind of finding ideas and like maybe abandoning them and trying something else. You'll especially hear that on guitar, but I heard it on drums a little bit. I hear him going like, oh, how about a little bit of a ghost note? Okay, I'll keep using that. I think that's really interesting. That's also of its era. There's no looping. We're not in the digital age where you take the one perfect 4-bar loop and then you just cut and paste it all the way through.
No.
No.
Okay, so this is
Please do.
excellent.
Yeah.
This is amazing. So, yeah.
You just
no.
heard the drums.
And really, I could go home.
No, don't go home.
Because-
don't go home.
no,
because
because-
guess what?
Yeah.
Now we're gonna hear the bass.
No, because is this the nerdiest music show? Or
I mean, we'd love to think that it is. And if you say so,
It's giving.
It is.
It is. It is. In
Thank
the
you.
very
You have
best
not
way.
even seen us. You have not even really seen us stare down.
I
yet.
haven't really, right? I haven't.
Not yet.
I'm just at the beginning. Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Gets
My man
nerdier.
Luxury. What's going on with the bass stems?
The man on bass is Will Lee, and you all know who he is, not just from the hundreds of famous songs he's played on as a session player, but he's also Dave Letterman's bass player in the world's most dangerous band. And this is him playing with a really interesting effect on his bass, which I think is the chorus effect or a digital delay, MXR digital delay. And here he is. Add some drums back, right here. It's just a stone groove. It's just a stone groove. It's like the best thing in the world.
In
To
some
listen
ways,
to a
it's almost
disco
it's
bass
almost
and
an
drum.
anonymous groove because
Yeah.
Amazing.
usually I can hear these parts, these stems, and be like,
Oh,
oh,
you can't
that's
hear the song
that's
on
this
top?
part of the song.
Yeah.
There, that could be any number of songs.
It really could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because there's actually only one section where there are chord changes. Like we're kind of just locked into the root note this whole time. Boom, boom, boom.
I also
boom.
think that piano and eventually those strings, because I gotta talk about those strings. I am such a fan of the
We're
strings.
gonna get to them. Be patient.
The piano and the strings are really they're working it for me. And I
They're
might ask
working
you to
it.
do something in
But you're
particular
nailing
once
it.
we get to it.
But you're nailing it because the bass, the drums, and even the guitars are really just a rhythmic bed. And you could almost have any disco top line on top. But it's when that piano comes in that you'll start to hear the song. But first, there's some really,
But the bass.
some delicious moments. I was mentioning before that in the chorus, we've got the single, it's just one chord. So there's no harmonic variety. But we do have some fun moments in the transition from the verse to the chorus. And here that is on bass and drums. Just a little nice,
Yeah, yeah.
melodic. I'm going to play you one other thing, by the way, we were talking about before, how the process of making this is. Again, they may have just heard the song, maybe that for the first time ever that morning, given a chart. Here's how the song is arranged. You play these parts. And then the assignment a little bit for Will Lee, for the drummer, for the bass player, for everyone, is to mess around with it. Like
Yeah.
take that as a starting point.
Yes.
And every now and then there's moments that are imperfect. And we love that because it just shows in this day and age where everything's pro tooled that for classic iconic songs, there can be little clams, little imperfections. So here's where Will Lee drops a note by mistake.
Come on, Will.
I'll point it out. He just it's not there intentionally. I'll play it in the mix with the drums. It was just a moment and they left it because it was like, yeah, it's fine. And it never happens again. This is just my theory. Like when something like that happens, it's just a little clam and you just leave it. Maybe James Brown
little
fines you
clam.
$50, but not in this case.
We do a lot of conjecture on this show.
Conjecture is
But our
fun.
lawyers are at the ready.
Storytelling.
It's storytelling. Listen, that's the bass line. There's one last part I'll play, and then we'll get into the delicious piano. In the last minute and a half of a song, Shaka goes crazy, and we will be hearing all of her vocals in a moment. But the rest of the band is just kind of vamping. They're just going between these two chords. So to make it interesting, you kind of like play around a bit. So this is Will Lee meandering. Well, he didn't have to hit those notes, but he wanted to.
He wrote about 5 new songs in that little meander.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
He didn't know where he was going either till he got there.
But that's why you got the call in those days, right?
Yes, that's why you got
That's
the call.
why you got the call, because people knew you. They could trust you to use your imagination, to be like confident about being creative. Like,
Yeah.
I love my time.
Yeah.
I do. I love my era. I love the era of sampling. I love the era of looping. It's its own genius and creativity.
It's its
and those
own genius.
things.
That's right.
It is.
It's a different thing.
But I also, this is the music of my childhood,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like when you hear it broken out the way you're breaking it out right now, like honestly, it's emotional because you hear the work.
yeah.
You really do hear the work. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
You hear lyricism and things other than the lyrics. Like, you know, you hear that little piece. And by the way, some of this goes back to the fact that, like, we don't really do bands in any genre of music now. Like, everybody's a solo artist.
Oh, at modern.
Yes.
Yeah, there's not
like
bands anymore,
they said,
really?
like,
Yeah.
there wasn't
Yes.
one band in the
In the top 100.
Billboard
Yeah.
Top 100
Right.
recently. And when there's just one person essentially sitting at a laptop and you don't get those like little flourishes as much, like where like, oh, I'm just the bass player. Okay, so I'm gonna make this bass really stand out. Like you
Yeah.
don't get all of that. Let's get into that piano because that piano is doing amazing work.
And let's remember that the song begins life when Valerie Simpson was playing piano. She's not on this track. It's Richard T. And
Shout out to Richard T, but shout out to Valerie Simpson. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh,
yeah.
love
Yeah.
that.
And Richard T added a little bit of sauce, so let's listen to him.
Let's do that. That's all I need. Like that could have been the song. I'd still be here. Woo! Sounds like a Masters at Work house remix or something.
It's so house music.
Listen to that.
It's so house music.
Listen to that. That is
Before there was house.
It sounds so
well,
happy.
but it's also garage.
It just sounds like happiness.
Yeah.
It does. It
It
sounds
really
like
does.
great.
It just sounds like
It sounds like gospel.
It's gospel. I was
but
just
it's
gonna
got
say
that beat.
yes.
Here, give us some more. Give us some more.
It really is the
it
best.
is gospel. There's
Give-
no
give some
doubt.
more.
It is gospel, right?
Gospel into disco into house. That's
Woo!
the
to
lyric
hear
right
Larry
there,
Levan
right?
tell it, garage was dance music with instruments, and then with house they did it on electronics. That's what he would
And to
say.
add another layer, because
Yeah.
we talk about this on the show, the intertextuality of it all, and you're doing it at the garage, which is the church of music.
Ah,
And he
well, but it
is
was
the
also
DJ,
a garage.
the preacher.
It was literally a garage.
Right.
Literally a
Yeah.
garage.
Right. So the combination of these things, there really is a religiosity to it. Like it's ecstasy.
yes.
Can we hear some more piano, please?
Ecstatic piano coming
is
up,
so
my
fun.
friend. So this is the same section I was playing for you before, where the bass gets a little crazy going into the chorus. That's like one of the most musically interesting moments because the rest of it is vamping on the groove. Here's what the piano does in one of those moments.
I just feel we should be dancing. I don't
You can get up and dance.
It sounds so good.
I
I'm
have
gonna-
a question. What does that sound? I think it's giving me
reminding you of
Donald
something?
Byrd. Love has come around. If anybody knows that song, yeah,
Yeah, I know
that,
that
that's
one.
what I'm hearing in some of that piano build. What a great
Love
time.
that song. I
Late
did not even think
70s.
that was the title of that song.
You don't remember that?
No,
you remember
I
that song?
remembered it when you started singing it, but I didn't remember it by the
Love
title.
has come- I'll play a section of it because it's one of my favorite songs of all time.
I love that song. You do hear it though.
By the way, I'm not even saying that they sound like. I'm saying like they've got the same vibe. They've got that same good energy.
Yes.
No, you're absolutely right. And the sound of the piano chords, that rhythm, which we are all connecting kind of collectively. It's like, this is 1978. There is no house music yet.
Yep.
But there's about to be. And in the meantime, there's disco, and this is the lineage. And it's the piano is one of the things that ties it together. So let's hear some more of that delicious
Let's hear
piano.
some more delicious piano.
Delicious piano.
Oh, it's delicious.
Another one of those connecting of the vamps sections where we have a little bit of harmony happening, harmonic interest. Here's the last one.
Give me some drums with that.
So I'll put some drums onto that. There's that same part with drums because there's a little tom build up. And a fill on the bass. They're all messing around. So they're like 3 minutes into the song and they're just like, woo, we get to have fun now.
Oh no, they're partying.
I'm
They're
gonna isolate
partying.
that. It's partying. I'm gonna isolate that bass fill because that's another hook. Oh, he kind of drops out there too. That might have been a little clam. Well, Lee, I'm
It might
finding a
have-
couple clams in here. That'll
He
be
might have
50
been,
bucks
might
a
have been
clam.
intentional. If it happens more than once,
I don't know. That's a different part. I don't think it's intentional, but
Will, I don't know why he's
it didn't break the song.
throwing salt on
It
your
didn't
name
break
like this.
anything. And I'll throw the vocals in there so you know what part we're in. Little tease of the vocals to come.
Let me tell you
We're
something.
not going to talk about that
I
vocal
will
just
literally
yet.
start crying on this podcast.
No,
I
listen.
will do it.
Let her
I will
cry.
do it. I
Let her
will
cry.
do it,
It's
and
good
I
for
will not.
clicks.
I will
We'll get a lot of
not.
clicks.
I will not feel shamed if I do it.
No,
I will
would-
not feel shame because it's
No shame.
too pretty.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about guitar. We got two guitar players here. One is Hamish Stewart, another average white band performer. He's also on Pick Up the Pieces. And we also have Phil Upchurch on the second guitar, who also plays on Michael Jackson's Working Day and Night.
Nice.
But here's the first of the two guitar parts. And the other guitar is doing this. they're kind of playing off each other.
By the way, I like those guitars because it sounds like Niall and Bernard from Chic.
Yeah, we've definitely
Quite
got
a
a
bit.
Nile-ish influence.
Yeah.
One of them is a little bit more rhythmic, and the other one's just kind of finding a note and staying a little longer. Here's another section. I'll play them one at a time because it's fun to hear them separate. So, rhythmic guy, I don't know which is which, Hamish or Phil, is doing this. Probably Hamish, right? Because he did the pick up the pieces guitar. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. And while that's happening, the other guitar is doing this, and then I'll play them together, and you see how they blend. That's both of them together with some drums. And let's throw in some bass. And then get the piano.
All right. Sounds good.
So that is the underlying rhythm section before we get to the strings and the vocals, which is where, I mean, I was going to say where the magic happens. We already have magic happening. In the
Absolutely. So
instrumental
much
track.
magic happening.
Let's listen to some strings. These are, I don't have names for who the performers are, but arranged by Arif Mardin. And here is the intro.
Right? Epic. I mean, you could call the song there, like, what is going on?
Cinematic.
Cinematic. You feel something.
It's too much.
You get the you're gonna cry.
I'm gonna stop.
You guys!
Wait, play me
It's
some more
very you
strings.
guys.
Pump it up in here a little bit. Give us some more strings, bro.
Here's another. This is happening in the first verse. This is what's happening under the vocal.
Okay.
I'll play the strings and I'll gradually add a
Already
few things
loving
in.
it.
No. That is not that long like that on the record. It is.
It is.
It is.
That's really happening. That nice swoop with that long legato.
I
A gape.
did not hear that.
I did not hear it either until I was going through it. That's happening in the song, all these beautiful moments.
It's like a cartwheel. It's like, what are we doing here? It's like, how do you not? And people say, why is music expensive? Why is
You
why
gotta
is
pay for some bodies in
music-
that room, you know?
Like, people are working.
Yes.
Like, I am such a fan of reminding people that people are working. Even when people say, oh, you know what, you guys, I wish that you guys could play the whole song. Yeah, we do too, but we would also like to see the musicians get paid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
I don't even know their names, those string players.
I was gonna say that when you said that you don't even know their
Yeah.
names, I was like, it doesn't. It's disappointing, but it also doesn't surprise me that nobody bothered to record. Like, who's playing? I hear a violin, I hear a cello. Like, I feel like there's more than one type of string going.
They're in
on.
a document
lot of
filed
strings
away
going on.
somewhere, but
Someone
it doesn't
knows,
make it to
but
the credits.
still. And if you know, go to the comments and let us know because we'd love to know. Like, we'd love to give these people their due.
Yes.
The power of choosing to name or not name means that these individuals may or may not get hired again.
Yes.
Their payment is clearly tied to it
We
being
hope
a
they're
one-time
alive. I
Thank
session.
hope
you.
they're alive so we can give them
Yeah.
like their props. You know?
Yes.
But it didn't make it to the album credits because Discogs, if you ever look at that, you can
Yeah.
actually see the actual album artwork and you can see, oh, this is what was printed, and
Yes.
their names are not printed on it. So
Yes.
it's unfortunate because it's a huge part of what makes the song emotional. Because look at Danielle Smith over there being very emotional.
Oh man,
about
very
the
emotional.
strings.
And I just want to say, Discogs is your friend.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
If you are a music fan, immediately go to Discogs and
Yeah.
actually see the CD and the album covers. One, to catch a mood.
Yeah.
Okay. To catch a whole mood, and to know just how deep it is to not only have all the musicians and the singers and everything together, but also there's a photographer or a graphic artist or whatever or a graphic designer who had to get into the mood and to like try to convey what this thing was going to be.
There's a version of the song that was only on the Japanese press.
Talk
Right.
about it. Speak on it.
That's why I was always
Yes.
there because I
Just
was
to
always
ex-
DJing.
For any listeners listeners who don't know, Discogs is a website. It's a crowdsourced website with
Yes.
pretty much every recording released of any music ever because it's crowdsourced.
Yes.
So you have these wonderfully amateur photographs that someone took of their album cover.
so great.
It's so great. It's so charming.
It is.
But over time, we kind of have the data that's deeper that doesn't make it to Wikipedia.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I could live in these strings forever. I really want to hear one more, but I know that we have to get to the vocals. So, and that's going to be a whole other journey.
Let's take that journey, my
Let's
friend.
Let's go on that journey.
Shall we listen to Shaka Khan
Yes.
start the song with the chorus? And she is belting what looks like at least 2 takes.
I'm every woman. It's all in me.
By the way, there's one more me in there.
It sounds like a double.
It's
Is that a double?
She's doubling herself, and she's such a good singer. Her doubles are perfect.
Yeah.
You don't hear anything that is different between them. But in that last note, what's interesting is she has 3 different notes. I'll play them separately and then
okay.
together. Here's me.
All in me.
And then she went back and she did this.
All in me.
That's the one you really hear.
And then she went lower and did one more lower harmony.
Me.
Oh, I can't stand it.
Right? Right? It's too much. I need to slow down.
It's too much.
It's too much. Here is that stack, those 3 notes together.
And now you can hear it.
Now, famously, Shaka talks about how she was one of the first singers to do her own backing vocals and to actually sort of insist that she be the one to do them. Normally, you would have had other singers.
Yep.
And she came in and she wasn't happy with, she tells the story, I don't know what song it was on, but she wasn't happy with the vocalist they had brought in. So she said, let me just do it. And that's what they kept. But now let's hear part B of the chorus, the answer section, which sounds like this.
Anything you want done, baby, I'll do it naturally. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then she does another chorus, another harmony, and then we get some woes. Shall we hear some woes?
Is that just her? It sounds like there's a man voice.
So the backing vocals are Shaka with Will Lead, the bass player, and Hamish Stewart, the guitar player. So I think you're right. I think we're hearing all of them in those low
Yeah,
vocals.
but they sound, yeah.
Yeah, in the woes. There's a lot of woes in this song.
I'm pro woes.
I'm pro woes. All right, well, let's listen to some more Shaka.
I gotta hear some verse because to me that verse, I could guess like it's so clean. It's such a clean,
So she goes from those big stacks and backing vocalists to just one single
just clean,
undoubled
single, undoubled. Yes.
for verse 1. Let's hear that.
I can cast a spell of secrets you can't tell. Mix a special brew, put fire inside of you. And anytime you feel danger or fear, instantly I will appear. Call.
I can't do it.
I know.
You're not
it's
gonna
so-
make it to the end of the episode.
We have some episodes
I
where it's so
literally
hard to
am
react.
asking producers for Kleenex at this point. I'll tell you what I hear. I hear influence. And the reason that it makes me emotional, honestly, is because Shaka does not get the credit that she is due.
I gotta hear the verse 2. I can sense your needs like rain on the seeds. I just want to hear that isolated because ever since we chose this song and you chose this song, I wanted to hear that isolated. Can we hear that verse? Thank you.
I can sense your needs like rain onto the seas.
Here comes the harmony.
I can make a rhyme of confusion in your mind. And when it comes down to some good old-fashioned love, that's what I've got. Baby, I've got.
Oh my gosh!
I can't do it with you guys.
Cut these mics
Devastating.
off. Cut the
That's
cameras off.
devastating.
We're a puddle.
I
We're all
can't.
devastated.
I
We're living in a
can't.
Puddle.
She
Look.
said, I can make a rhyme.
Of confusion in your
Of
mind. Never understood that
confusion
line.
in-
I spent my whole childhood. I didn't know what they said.
But you get it now.
Lock a vision in your mind. I thought maybe lock a vision in your mind. I didn't, I thought she said, I can bring you to your knees like praying onto the seas. I didn't listen. We didn't have the internet back then.
She's
If you got that lyric wrong,
like-
you didn't know what it said.
I will clear it all up for you, sir.
No,
That's what she's saying.
That's what
She's saying, I will make a poem of
she-
your chaos.
And she's not even saying it to sir, because again, now I hear these lyrics. I'm like, she could be helping her daughter. She could be helping
Anybody.
her partner.
All right. Well, we have to hear the peak build right before that ending chorus that just goes on and on and on. So let's hear her build to it. This is the bridge into the last chorus. We're not done building. And then we do this modulation.
Here it comes. Here it comes.
That's the best part. That's the best part.
Yeah.
That's the best part
Yeah,
right
no,
there.
everybody knows that. And
That's the
Did
best
she
part.
know she was going to do that
I do
before
not
she
think
did it?
Let's just hear it by itself. That's a long note. She goes low with it.
It's like a waterfall.
that is insane. And I feel like that is the one part where, like, Whitney was like, I ain't touching that part. I'm doing that exactly like her. Because that,
What else are you gonna do?
Descend chromatically into
Descend
that
chromatically.
final minute.
can I just say, this is the greatest outro. Because people forget this is not technically the chorus anymore. We're into the outro of the song.
Yeah.
But, like, she's just hitting you every single bar. Just pure, clean notes from the queen herself.
It's a modulation fake out, remember?
Yes, it really does.
Right, because it goes up, but then it,
It
comes
goes
down
up, and
again.
it comes back
You
down.
think it's gonna go up here? I'll play the piano part and the vocals together. It fakes you out all the way to the end. It's 2 minutes straight of this part, literally 2 minutes straight of just this. Okay, we're here, but then we're gonna go up 3 half steps. Boom. Oh, we're here now. I guess we modulated. I guess we're in a new key. Nope. We're gonna go right back down again. It's 2 minutes of that. The last 2 minutes are just that, all the way through the
The
fade.
best 2 minutes.
By the way, I say 2 minutes. That's because we have it. We can't play it because we don't have time. But there is more after the fade. So
I'm sure there's more vocals, there's more strings, there's more
strings.
piano.
There's so much good
But
stuff.
we gotta
move on.
There's never
unfortunately.
enough Shaka. Let's just
Never
call it
enough
what it
Shaka.
is.
Shaka. My whole time growing up, I always thought of it as her singing it to a dude saying, like, I'm gonna be that supportive woman. But really, coming to it now after, decades of being alive, I'm like, no, she's kind of saying that I'm there to support you no matter who you are.
Yes, absolutely. I get that energy. I mean, I love the song so much. It was the original title of My Shine Bright.
Really?
Was-
Wow, that makes so
It
that
was
makes so much
originally
sense.
going to be titled She's Every Woman, a very personal history of Black women in pop. For a number of reasons, it didn't go that way, and I love that it's called Shine Bright.
Yes.
But that's the energy, and
Yeah.
plus the combination of Shaka Khan doing it and then Whitney covering it. It's
Follow it
like
up.
it's just such a classic
It's
Black
coming.
girl anthem. I love Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston is a queen among singers. There is none higher. But Whitney Houston listened to this 40,000,865 trillion times. You
Yes.
can hear it. When you really listen to Whitney's cover, she didn't change the arrangement that
It's
much.
faithful.
Shaka gets a credit actually in Whitney's cover that says arrangement by Shaka Khan.
Oh, and she should.
Yeah.
Whitney probably knew she had to because she didn't want to. I thought that Sissy actually sang a little bit uncredited on the original I'm Every Woman.
Is that
So
true?
there's a lot of back and forth on the internet, and one of the back and forths includes Shaka herself in an interview saying that both Sissy and Whitney, a young 14-year-old Whitney, are on the song. But then minutes
there's like
later
a
on a
apocryphal.
Facebook post, it's like a Guardian interview.
What happened?
And then a Facebook post later that same day, she goes on to say, "Oh, I misspoke. I think it was only Sissy."
Yeah.
We-
She said that Whitney was not on it. It was,
Right.
It was Sissy.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
Once Whitney decides she's going to sing a Shaka song, which, I dare anybody to go up at karaoke and sing a Michael Jackson song, sing a Stevie Wonder song. At the point you decide you're going to sing a Shaka Khan song, you got to be Whitney levels of good. And I agree
And
with
confident.
you. I think she listened to it however many times as you said
Yes.
and dialed it absolutely in.
Yes. And I also think just knowing sort of the energy of the women of that era. It was a super competitive scene.
Yeah.
Okay, so people who were really good, let's just say Aretha Franklin, let's just say Whitney Houston, when there were songs that were really like that person's song, whether it was Respect from Otis Redding, or whether it was I'm Every Woman from Shaka Khan, there was almost a competitive thing like, oh, she think that her song?
Yeah. No. You're onto something with this.
You think that's her song? Is that what you think? Because I'll sing it. And we're going to see whose song it is. And that was always the energy that I got from Whitney Houston's version of I'm Every Woman. Like, that song is too good. That song is too associated with Shaka Khan. And I say this with so much love and respect for Whitney Houston and Shaka Khan. Both versions are Hall of Fame versions. But I'm telling you, I hear Whitney trying to go note for note. And that is something that Whitney Houston does not do.
Part of what you're saying that's really resonating for me is because we're talking about two interpreters. Both Whitney Houston and Shaka Khan are performers and singers, but not necessarily songwriters. And what they own is the performance, and what they own is the song. And this takes us back to the legacy of where cover versions come from. Because we can't forget that Little Richard and Elvis Presley, Big Mama Thornton. The legacy of cover versions is white performers that take a song that was originally for a black artist and becoming the one that is known for that song.
Yes.
And the song itself is what performers in the old days especially, that's all they had.
Yes.
Before the Beatles start writing, Dylan, in the 60s, you start writing your own songs, that becomes a choice. But for the pure performers, the ownership of the cover comes from whose song does better.
Yes.
Because to a lot of people, this is Whitney's song.
It is. And it's even when I was watching the video for Whitney Houston's version on the way here, and it's such a great video. Whitney is at the top of her game. She's in the Bodyguard era. She's pregnant in the video. She looks she's literally, she already usually glows, but she was glowing. And because sometimes she was too thin, but in this she just looks fleshy and beautiful and amazing. And I see Shaka coming in moments, in beats.
Because she's in the video too, you mean?
Yeah, she is. She's in there. It's a great video. Yeah. T-Boz, Olive.
TLC's in there.
TLC's in there.
It's such a great, lot of fun cameos.
Yes, it's so great. And Shaka is reduced to a cameo though.
But she does have.
She gets the shout out.
We're going to talk about it. And by the way, I thought that was actually just a lyric in the song growing up. I thought.
What was?
I thought Shaka Khan. Shaka Khan. Like, I thought that was like a lyric from the song. In fact, the first time I ever heard the Shaka Khan version, I expected her to sing her own name at the end of the song. Like, this is like me, like in my 20s or whatever. But like, yeah, no, seriously,
I love Whitney.
I thought that what do you
I
want to
love
call
Whitney.
it? That respect was there. You're saying there.
I'm not. Oh no, the respect from Whitney Houston, I think, is she probably had as much respect for Shaka Khan as she had for any singer that she ever listened to.
Totally.
I mean, just again, this is what I'm saying. I hear influence when I hear those isolated vocals. Okay, when you hear Shaka singing, you can hear some of that, not just in Whitney Houston's cover of I'm Every Woman, but in Whitney Houston singing. Period.
Yeah. Shaka said when she heard the Whitney version, she said, "Are you using my vocals?"
Whoop, whoop.
She said she thought maybe her backgrounds were still in the mix.
And even if she didn't,
so you're nailing it.
She was going to say it.
Yeah, whether or not it was replicated if it wasn't the original.
Yes, this is what I'm saying. No, and I think I remember when the video came out. I hadn't really listened to it that much, just on the album. But when the video came out, we were all listening to it, and I immediately thought to myself, even way back then, this sounds just like Shaka's version.
Yeah.
We brought it up to speed. We brought it up to where it was supposed to be in the era, but it's giving pound for pound very similar, if not almost exactly the same. An example that I have is, okay, so Stephanie Mills sings Home from The Wiz.
Yep.
And everybody tries to cover Home. It's every black girl in every talent show sings Home. You see Beyonce singing it in a talent show way back then when she was a kid. Barbra Streisand sings Stephanie Mills's home. And that's why we have to call it Stephanie Mills's home, because no one strays from the vocal arrangement
Right.
of Stephanie Mills. They do not. And Whitney did not stray. And I just want to say, for Whitney to not stray from someone else's vocal arrangement is saying something.
That's the ultimate compliment.
Yes.
Yes.
But the irony of it is that in a way it's also a form of erasure
It is, though.
over Shaka's version.
It is. There's
Right.
It's just the idea that Black people or Black women or music itself isn't like ruthlessly competitive, that there isn't like a lot of ego involved in the creation of music.
Yes. Ambition and drive are definitely in the mix.
And you can hear it.
Yeah.
And you can hear it. And I think you can hear it better in Black music than in anything.
Just a couple of things before we move on from the song I wanted to point out is we have a music video for Whitney Houston that we've all seen. It should be pointed out the original music video for this.
Oh, it's so great.
It's so cool
It's
and
so
lo-fi in a
great.
fun
It
way.
is.
It reminds me of the infamous Star Wars Christmas special in that, like, you get the sense they were like, oh, this is the future of special effects. But it's really just her superimposed
Yes.
5 shakas representing every woman. And
Yes.
it may not seem like much now, but you got to realize this is pre-MTV.
It was.
And the fact that this could be shown in clubs.
Shaka's video was so great. She has on the best outfits.
So many good outfits.
Right?
At least 5.
At least 5 or 6 outfits. Each one she's doing like an awkward dance. Like, what am I supposed to be doing? What? Okay, this is a what? This is a video? What is this?
Right.
She looks flawlessly beautiful and amazing and just so luscious, right? In every version of herself. And she really is being like
Every woman.
every woman.
She's being every woman.
Yeah.
I'm Every Woman was just the beginning of Shaka's superstar career. She kept making music with Rufus until they broke up in 1983. At the same time, she was on the grind, releasing even more solo albums. We got to take a moment to give some love to Clouds, one of my favorite songs from her second album, which was called Naughty. It was an extremely important song in the development of dance music, particularly the genre known as garage, as we've been talking about.
Different shapes and sizes, hide the horizon.
Love Clouds.
She's got a distinctive sound.
Yep.
The 80s are a great time for Shaka. You know, she's making waves on the R&B chart. She's got songs like What You Gonna Do For Me, Ain't Nobody, which deserves its own episode of one song, I think. And another one of my absolute favorites, I Know You, I Live You, which, you know that? Do you remember that
Not
one?
really.
I'll play it for you here. Throughout her career, Shaka has covered quite a few songs from her contemporaries, including Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, which she recorded in 2002 and won a Grammy for. And of course, there's Shaka's cover of Prince's song, I Feel For You from 1984. Get this, it was the first R&B song to feature a rap segment.
That's crazy. Melly Mel.
Unbelievable. Yeah, it was Melly Mel.
Shaka Khan.
And
Shaka
there-
Khan.
Yeah.
Exactly. And by the way, there would be no Me and Mariah Go Back Like Babies with Fast Fires without I Feel For You.
Yep.
Yes, that rap was by Melly Mel and the famous harmonica solo by Stevie Wonder.
That's right.
Yes. Again, I speak to Shaka Khan's influence
Yeah.
on everything that has come after her.
Oh, Prince was obsessed with Shaka Khan. Prince
That's amazing.
goes on to like obviously worship her.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't actually write "Feel for You" about for Shaka though. She wrote it for Patrice Rushen, who turned it down.
Patrice.
Who turned
Left
it
money
down.
on the table,
Left money
Patrice.
on the table.
Sending you forget me nots.
Right? Oh,
Yes.
one of my favorite
Oh,
songs
number
of all
one is
time.
my
Yes,
favorite Patrice Rushen.
yes.
Number
Oh.
one is
One of the greatest.
such a great song.
Love that song. There's some heartbreaking stories of what could have or should have been. One of them, probably the most heartbreaking one, is that, did you know, I just learned this in researching this episode, Robert Palmer's Addicted to Love started life as a duet with Shaka Khan. There exists somewhere in the world
Addicted to love.
a Robert Palmer and Shaka Khan recording of Addicted to Love. and they wiped her
makes-
from the backing track. They
That
wiped her
makes
from
a
the
lot
tape.
of sense. That makes it because you know
Not
what?
wiped
My
her.
other favorite Robert Palmer song is "I Didn't Mean to Turn You On," which is
Sherelle.
an amazing Sherelle song.
Yeah, by
I
Jimmy
love
Jam
the
and Terry
Sherelle
Lewis.
song version. Yeah, Jimmy Jam and
Yes.
Terry Lewis. So Robert Palmer was really just he was
Robert
dipping his
Palmer
hand in
wanted
the-
to do the song with her. He brought her in.
Mm.
They recorded it, and some garbage happened at the record level. The record company executive, MTV, something bad took place, music industry dirtiness. And she's up to this day, you can tell it's like a heartbreaking thing that she wasn't on the song, especially
it's a-
because
It's a big record.
it was done dirty. It was a big record, and she was done dirty. Less done dirty, but interesting to think about an alternative universe where Dennis Edwards' 1984 smash "Don't Look Any Further" might have had Shaka on it had she not had a scheduling conflict.
I could totally see that because there is a female vocal
Oh
on
my
"Don't Look Any
God.
Further."
That's
is-
my song,
that-
too.
yeah.
It's now a
And you
Sita
know it's got
Garrett
that
song.
female part
Yes,
on
it
it. Yeah, that
does.
would have been Shaka.
It would have been Shaka on that song.
I'll still be looking in your ebony eyes.
Daylight.
She had a conflict. She couldn't
Oh,
make
man.
it, whatever that means. And last but not least, and this is another one that's less dirty, so it's a happy ending for her friend. But Snap's 1989 smash, "I Got the Power." That song was originally, they asked Shaka to do it,
It sounds like. It
and
sounds like
she
it should've
couldn't
been
do
her.
it, so she gave it to her friend Penny Ford. And if you notice, they actually end up interpolating another Shaka Khan song, which is "Some Love" from 1978. So yeah, there is the "Don't Break My Heart" part of "I Got the Power." That's a Shaka interpolation.
Oh wow.
So some interesting Shaka "What Could Have Beens."
Oh,
We've talked about covers,
Okay.
and we've talked about songs she's covered and songs of hers that have been covered. Let's talk a little bit about samples. There's "Through the Fire" from 1985, which was an Atlanta radio staple for most of my childhood. And that must have been the case in Chicago because Kanye famously sampled it for "Through the Wire," a song that he recorded about, his accident and the fact that he was having to rap through the wire. He sounds very
He literally
different,
does in
very
that song. Is
Yeah.
incredible.
un-Kanye on that song.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When the doctor told me I had I was gonna have a plate in my chin, I said, "Dog, didn't you realize I'll never make it?"
And in the music video, Kanye features the artwork of Shaka's album Epiphany, the Best of Shaka Khan Volume 1, where you can find "Through the Fire." Now, here's what's interesting. Shaka's son convinced her to clear the sample for Kanye.
Yeah.
And then she hears it, and she's very upset because she thinks she sounds like a chipmunk.
She had no idea it was going to be Kanye-fied.
Exactly. It turns out in later interviews, she understands that speeding up the sample, slowing it down, that's just part of hip-hop
Right.
culture.
I mean, in my opinion, when I hear her say that, I feel like she's like begrudgingly saying, "Yeah, I understand." I think she's still a little annoyed. They took
Well, I
They
mean,
took her instrument and
if
they
you
turned
sound
it-
as good as she sounds, you may
Yeah.
not want to hear, that version. But I will say that was a huge hit for Kanye back in the days.
It was, yeah.
because it touched the nostalgia strings of the generation previous to hip hop.
And
It really just,
Yeah.
man, that song is so. It's old school, but it was even old school when it came out.
Yeah,
Felt
you're
old
right.
school,
You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
really was one of. It
was
was
like a
like
70s
and it had
throwback.
the
throwback ballad. Like it
Yeah.
just.
A Quiet Storm.
It really
WKRP
was.
era, like,
yes.
And I did allude earlier to jazz being an important part of understanding this woman.
Yes.
This wonderful quote that I found from her, she goes, "I'm only kissing the hem of the dress of the lady called Jazz." Now, when I heard that, I was like, man, this really explains where she is coming from in so many ways. Her delivery, her choice of repertoire, the fact that she's done a lot of jazz. She has an entire jazz record.
Yes, she does.
Do you have that one, Echoes of an Era?
Yeah, listen.
Yeah.
I just
Chick
remember,
Corea.
I think she toured around that album too. I know she toured around that album. And I remember she made very clear in the walk up to the tour, I'm not singing any of my Rufus hits. I'm not singing any of my Shaka
So,
Khan
yeah.
songs. I'm singing only jazz. And I wasn't at the show, but I remember them talking about it like on the radio the next day or something. And this was in Oakland or in the Bay Area, I should say. And people started booing.
Yeah.
And they
wanted
started
her.
What year
saying
was
out,
this? What year
I'm
was this?
every woman.
Yeah, they wanted the hits.
You know,
we-
Hollywood,
Yeah.
like sing this, like sing what I paid for.
Right.
Basically, was the energy.
What year was this?
And
Roughly?
The
what is
82,
this? 80s?
Yeah, Echoes of an Era was 82. That's
Yeah.
with Chick Corea and Stanley Clarke.
Yeah,
It's all
and-
jazz original standards.
It does, and she stood right there and said, "We made it very clear. I'm not doing that."
Would you go to Andre 3000's flute show and start booing and be like,
I mean, I would, but
shouldn't.
that's me.
Mrs. Jackson?
It would be
No,
No,
but
you
that's
wouldn't.
the energy. And so they said that she went right into My Funny Valentine. Her version,
Her
of
version.
that is I mean, the song by itself is, the lyrics are insane, and always will be. It's a classic. It's a part of the Great American Songbook for
Yeah.
a reason. But Shaka singing it,
Yeah. She's an
And-
interpreter.
yeah, she is. She
She's
absolutely
an actress.
is.
She's
Yes.
an interpreter. When I was kind of doing my homework on this, that was sort of a key that helped unlock a lot of her entire career, because she's not really a songwriter, and that's not, to say anything negative. It's just like her chosen methodology for musicianship is to select repertoire,
Yes.
find songs that she connects with, and then she inhabits them and she
Yes.
transforms them and she
Yes.
performs them. That is her artistic route.
I think that interpreters get a bad rap. And then on the flip side of that, it's so hard for music critics or social media superstars to rightly call women and black women songwriters when they are songwriters. It took so long for Mariah Carey to be identified in every article as a singer-songwriter.
You're absolutely right. That's a great connection.
Yes.
Because that's the legacy. Sarah Vaughan, Ella Fitzgerald, Billie
Yes.
Holiday are mostly not writing original material.
No, they're not. And it's high art, though,
Mm-hmm.
when you can take the words that somebody else wrote.
yeah.
Look at that and look at the music, look at the arrangement, imagine another arrangement maybe, and then say, I feel strong enough about myself that I know that Ella Fitzgerald sang this song. I know Ella sang it, and everybody knows Ella Fitzgerald's version. But you know what? Let's record
Let's do my
that.
version.
Gladys Knight has a jazz album. I love it when people say, I'm just gonna take it on.
And I
Yeah.
think the Ella connection is a real one too. There's one song just to illustrate the jazz connection that I have to play for you. This song won a Grammy. This song is called Bebop Medley from 1982, and it's insane. Basically, it won Best Arrangement for Voices because it's bebop. She's harmonizing with herself in these crazy scat moments. She took that
Yes.
background and training and talent and put it into pop music and put it into funk and put it into on the radio.
She did.
Well, at this point, I think it's safe to say that there's no denying the greatness of Chaka Khan. Between her solo career and as the lead singer of Rufus, she's won 10 Grammys, sold 70 million records, and several of her singles and albums have gone gold and platinum. She was also inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2023. So, Danielle, as we wrap up this episode,
Okay.
what do you believe is the legacy of Chaka Khan and I'm Every Woman?
I think that I have been saying it throughout this whole amazing show. I think that you guys have been saying it throughout this whole amazing show. But the legacy is that everybody wants to sound like Chaka Khan. I can't imagine a vocalist of any stripe, right, who wouldn't listen to Chaka Khan and say, damn, I want to sound like that. I want that kind of attention to detail. I want that type of excellence. I want that kind of reaching for the stars with every bar, with every note. It's like Chaka leaves no note untouched. Nothing is just like taken for granted. Yeah, like, oh,
No
yeah.
crumbs.
Wah, 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 wah. Nothing is that. Every note you feel her touching and making special.
Yeah.
And whenever you hear almost anyone that has recorded music, either during or after Chaka Khan's heyday, is in one way or another trying to be Chaka Khan.
I'm hearing all that too through your ears and sort of being in your book. Like I'm reading it now, so I'm like thinking about all these women, and I'm hearing the Whitney just the way you did, in the way you did, in that moment that you did. And then that sort of flows us into Mariah and into Beyonce. All of these women that are in this, whatever you call the word cloud of pop into R&B with gospel influence and funk and all that.
Yes.
They're all coming from a Shaka legacy, or they're all certainly connected in some ways to Shaka's legacy.
Even if it is in vocalists and they don't acknowledge it or even know it, even if it's just in their dreams, they listened to it in their sleep while they were in the back seat, while their mom and dad were playing it on the car radio. Like it's in
In their
people.
bloodstream.
Yeah, man. It's a Shaka's legacy I mean, it clearly is a Hall of Fame legacy, and this is coming from somebody who's on the committee. The year that is coming up is the first year that I've been on the committee.
What an honor! How great!
It's
Is it fun? It feels fun.
it's work.
Okay.
It's a huge
What an honor!
it's a huge honor, honestly. So when I say that her legacy is a Hall of Fame legacy, I mean it literally, and I mean it also, but metaphorically. Like what halls of fame just mean in general. Like you are the best of the absolute best, and that's where Shaka is.
Is she on your Mount Rushmore along with? I heard you say Beyonce was up there in another interview.
Yes, Beyonce's definitely up there. I mean, I tend but my big three is definitely going to be Janet, Mariah,
I love that.
and Whitney Houston.
Okay.
Well, now since
Absolutely.
we're
And
talking-
but Shaka's right there.
Well,
Okay.
okay. So since we're talking Rushmores,
Oh,
I have a controversial put you on the spot question.
let's go.
Shaka or Patty?
Shaka.
You heard it here first.
That wasn't that hard.
You heard it here
That was a
first.
quick answer.
No, and I love
I
her.
like a quick answer.
No, I do. I have so much love and respect for Patti LaBelle. I do, and I love the Bluebells. We can take it all the way back to
I love that.
the girl group. But I'm going to have to go on ahead and choose Shaka Khan.
Listen, we only do these things, people, because they're fun to do. I grew up. I'm one of 6. Okay, I
Ooh.
have 4 sisters. Okay,
Ooh.
the black women in my family, where they were always having this debate, and I just wanted to see where you fell along those lines.
I mean, I will sing If Only
My
You
sister
Knew
Spring is
right
Patty
now,
for life.
right?
So I think she's Patty till. But you know,
waiting.
we are not putting people together. We're just getting opinions.
You don't want it. You want it on flute.
I do want to ask real quick, because Shaka did, of course, do that interview where I think it was about the time that her relationship with Mary J is quite complicated. You know, Mary J famously covered Sweet Thing, and she felt like Mary sounded flat.
Sweet thing, don't you know you're my everything?
And I feel like the young internet came for Shaka, which is insane to me. They're like, she ain't flat. You just mad at her version of Sweet Thing did more. I'm like, not part of that camp. But she did also do that interview where she talked about the Rolling Stone top, I think it was...
Are you going to say the quote
top
that I think you're going to
50.
say, or
What's the
the
quote?
same quote about Mary?
Well, maybe. It was...
Okay.
They had ranked, like, I think Mariah Carey number 5. They had put a couple of singers above
Right,
her,
right.
including Mary. And she was just like, "Oh, this is crazy. This is insane." Did you happen across that interview? Did you ever hear?
Oh,
it?
I heard about it.
I can tell you exactly what she said. She goes, she's referring to the voters. They are blind as a motherfucking bat. They need hearing aids, Khan exclaimed, referring to the Rolling Stone critics. They must be the children of Helen Keller.
Okay, that's rude.
That's a little rude.
That's rude. That's a
I think
little
she
rude.
eventually walked it back a little bit. She apologized because she said, like, I'm friends with all these people, including Mary. So I always found that relationship to be really
No, I didn't find it rude what she said about anybody except for Helen Keller.
That's a little bit much.
You're worried
That
about
is
the
a little
Helen
much.
Keller thing.
I am more. Yes,
That's
I'm worried.
what-
Yes,
pushing it a
that's-
little bit.
That's yeah. No, I just feel like comparing between eras is
It's tough.
It's tough. Like I said, ego's involved. This is a lot of work and creativity and thought and imagination and all that kind of stuff. So if someone remakes your song, yeah, you're going to be listening to that hard. You're going to be listening for anything that sounds remotely
Yep.
off or even just different. And also, let's just be honest, getting older is not for the weak. Okay, so as we get older, even sometimes your influence is hard to witness because it says to you, my heyday is not
Right.
here.
My time's in the rearview mirror.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so my thought is Shaka can say what she wants to say.
Yeah,
and Mary
she's
J.
earned that
Blige is
right.
going to be absolutely fine. Her version is stellar.
I
But Shaka's
like her
is-
version of Sweet Thing. I actually thought it brought a level of gravitas is not the word, but like that was on what's the 411. which was the first album that I ever slow danced and was able to get a kiss from. So
Ooh.
I have a special place
Ooh,
in my heart for that album.
more.
Hey, no, this is. It's not like there are microphones around here. Okay, Danielle. Before we let you go,
Okay.
we want to play a game with you. It's called "What's One Song?" and here are the rules.
Okay.
We'll give you a scenario, and you give us one song that the scenario would apply to, and we'll want you to come up with that answer as quickly as possible. I don't think that'll be a problem because you seem to answer questions pretty quickly.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm getting an A+ right now.
No, you are
You're nailing it.
All right. So, what's one song you can't get out of your head right now?
Honestly, Lionel Richie, Jesus is Love.
What's one song that you could listen to every day for the rest of your life?
That song would be 1973's number one pop hit, "Midnight Train to Georgia" from
Yeah.
Gladys
Not
Knight
saying
and
the
the
fifth.
Pips.
All right.
I'm
consistent.
never gonna
You're
stray.
consistent.
It is a perfect record. I don't say that about that many records.
Wow.
There's not one weak element on that record.
Oh, now I want to ask you. Okay, but you have to lose one song off the album. What song is it?
Off what album?
Off that album.
I don't even listen to that album. All I listen to is "Midnight Train to Georgia."
Oh,
He just flipped the 45.
What's your favorite one
me?
off that album?
I'll ask the questions, man.
All right. I know that let me look. Real quick.
It's been a trailblazing episode. So many things have happened this
Right
episode
here.
that never happened before.
Right here.
You can come back anytime.
Right here.
What's one song you listened to a ton when you wrote Shine Bright?
And you know what's wild is that I don't even write about her that much in Shine Bright. I have written about her at length other places. But it's Sade and it's When Am I Gonna Make a Living?
Am I gonna make a living? Ooh, it's gonna take a while before I give in.
Ooh,
That's
nice.
That's
I love Sade.
I'm a
so
big fan
much.
of that answer. That's
Yeah.
great. Sade, listen, we have a couple of White Whale episodes of like, can we ever do that? And Sade is absolutely
It's
100% one of
Number
them.
one on my list. Absolutely.
she's
She's the queen.
she got me through too many things over the decades.
War of the
That's a
Heart
great song, too.
is heartbreaking.
It's too much.
Too much.
Even Soldier of Love, man. You talk
Soldier
about
of Love.
Yeah.
if you
I was late to that one.
Let me tell you something. If you do stems for Soldier of Love,
We'll bring you back for that one.
oh man.
We will
so
bring you
in
back.
any case, yeah, definitely is. But When Am I Gonna Make a Living is just it's about just that. It's about ambition, which I love to hear in music. I love to hear in music from women. I love to hear in music from Black women. And Sade was so young when she co-wrote and recorded that. And it has everything in it that if you hear that song at 19, 20, 21 years old, it will get you through your life.
It will get you through your life. Can I give you two more?
Yes,
Personal
please. This is a
Maureen.
fun game.
I think Maureen is
Yes,
underrated.
Maureen is good. And I
And I'm
love
gonna miss you, girl.
Listen,
I mean, like, come on.
any song with a girl's name as the title wins.
Yes, I've said that on a previous episode. Yeah,
Yes.
just name
We
the song
can go.
Brooke.
Let's
You
go.
know, like you're halfway home.
That's what I'm saying, Peggy Sue. Let's go.
All right. Oh my God, we gotta do that Sade episode. Okay, what's one song that you love to sing at karaoke?
I've never done a different song.
What is it?
Only Midnight Train to Georgia?
Let me.
I mean, that's
I am
good
not.
answer.
I'm not even gonna mess with Gladys like that. No,
Okay.
it's "I Will Survive." Gloria Gaynor.
Oh, there you go.
It never changes. It never
Good
changes.
choice.
First I was afraid, I was petrified. Kept thinking I could never live without you by my side. But then I spent
Come on.
And by the way, everybody in karaoke is like jamming along with you.
Yes, that's mine. But you weren't gonna ask me the one that makes me cry.
No, that's coming. That's actually
Okay.
coming.
I've been waiting on that one
That one's coming last.
because I have my Kleenex. ready.
Well, let's ask him now. What is one song that makes you cry?
Every single time. Carole King, "Way Over Yonder." I will cry thinking about it.
Way over yonder is a
We did not know
place
that song coming in, so
Thank you for turning it
thank
up.
you for playing.
Thank you for making us cry.
Yes.
Oh,
In the future,
It's
thanks
such
to
a-
this new song in
Oh,
my
yes.
repertoire of
I mean,
crying
get in my
songs.
car and just blast it.
you talking about "Way Over Yonder"?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
You'll be sad though. You'll be happy
Fine.
sad though. You'll be happy sad.
I like to be happy sad.
That's the good kind of sad.
Yes.
I like to be unhappy, gleeful sometimes.
I get
too.
that from Cocteau Twins and
yeah, totally.
and the Pretenders song, Back on the Chain Gang. That song makes me bawl.
Does it?
Destroys me because it's about her two bandmates who died.
I
heroin
never
overdoses.
knew that.
Yeah.
Is this Brass in Pocket?
It's I mean same band, but powers that be and force us to live like we do. That song. That last note, we go from minor to major, making us part. That kills me, and I might start crying right now. So stop looking
Okay,
at
I'll
me.
stop.
A lot of crack.
I'll stop.
I love that music has this power, though. That's
On some
It
people.
does.
Fun fact: I'm dead inside.
wait, music doesn't make
Are
you
you
cry.
serious?
Nothing makes you cry. No,
Nothing
song?
makes you
nothing
cry?
makes me cry.
What? Let's try to make him cry.
I'm ready.
Next episode, I will cry, but it'll be Crocodile. Check this out. What's one song we have to break down on a future episode of One Song?
Okay, because I'm just very into stems right now, so I'm just trying to think see, this one I can't answer quick enough, but I tell you,
You
what it
kinda
should be. I
answered
want
this
it to
one,
be the Jackson 5, I Want You Back.
Danielle Smith, thank you so much for playing this game and for joining us. Where can people find you? We want to find you. We want to find you. Is there anything you want to promote?
And the best thing that you can ever do is to buy and read and talk about my book, Shine Bright, A Very Personal History of Black Women in Pop. It is in paperback. It's a beautiful purple color in
beautiful.
paperback, right?
I brought a copy. You can decide it for me.
Yes,
love that. Thank you.
absolutely. I have a newsletter called Shine Bright HQ. You can find me on Substack and all over social media. I'm the same nickname, Danamo, which is from high school, Danamo. And there I am. I hope to see you out there.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure having you on
Such
the
an
show.
honor having you on the show. Thank you for
Oh,
coming
I had
by.
so much fun. If you can't tell, I had the most fun. Thank you for having
We
me.
went through all the emotions together. It was
All of
beautiful.
them.
As always, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok. You can find me on Instagram at Diallo, Diallo, and on TikTok at Diallo Riddle.
And you can find me on Instagram at Luxury, LUXXURY, and on TikTok at LuxuryXX.
You can also watch full episodes of One Song on YouTube now. Just search One Song Podcast. We'd love it if you like and subscribe.
Speaking of which, if you've made it this far, I think it means you like this podcast. So please don't forget to give us 5 stars, leave a review, and share it with someone you think would also like the show because it really helps keep it going.
Luxury, help me in this thing.
I'm producer, DJ, songwriter, and musicologist Luxury.
And I'm actor, writer, director, and sometimes DJ Diallo Riddle.
And this is One Song. We'll see you next time.